Hi, and welcome to part 3 of this video series on how to become a technical diver. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, click here for part 1, click here for part 2. Part 1 was about getting yourself ready, your body. Part 2 was about the equipment, and this is part 3, how to go about the training. And I would like to divide that also up into 3 sections. So how do you prepare for the training, your personal skills classes, and then your critical skills classes. So let's start with how to prepare yourself for training. Now, when you're training for technical diving, the amount of skill you need for a recreational dive, you can argue that it has to be the same as for a technical dive. But when you do technical diving, you're more task loaded. At a safety stop or at a certain depth, you need now to be able to make a switch to a different bottle. You need to be able to observe your buddy or your team when they're switching. So you're going to be doing more than just staying at the same depth. You're going to be working at a certain depth, and it might be in blue water with maybe just a line as a reference. So how do you prepare yourself for that? Well, make sure your buoyancy control, your trim, your fitting techniques are in great shape. That you can feel comfortable on the descent. You can stop your descent at any point. On the ascent, you can stop your ascent at any point, stay there. Practice, by taking out those wet notes, writing something down, and seeing if you can do those things at the same depth. Pass it around, take a 1 kilo weight, pass that around with your team. Those are also good exercises to get yourself ready. When you actually start the training, we divide training up into 2 main sections. Personal skills classes, which are about you, the diver alone, and critical skills training, which basically means that we're going to put some critical scenarios in place which you then have to solve or react to using the skills you've learned on your personal skills class. Now, a personal skills class is what we call essentials of classes. So in this case, essentials of technical diving. These classes are conducted in shallow water, so they can be conducted everywhere in the world, preferably at around 6 meters. So essentials of classes are basically classes that last a weekend, and we go from A to Z through the whole DIR story. So there's a bunch of theory involved, there's a bunch of practice dives involved, and there's also a bunch of equipment setup and fine-tuning involved. But what it basically means is we're looking at you. It's a very selfish class, if you might say. We're working at trim, we're working at buoyancy, we're working at finning techniques. We're working on your ability to do a gas switch. We're working on your ability to do a valve drill, an air share in mid-water, an air share from a stage or deco bottle. We're trying to hone these skills so that later, when you're ready for critical skills training, you can apply those skills to actual scenarios and make your technical diving course, your critical skills class, that much more valuable and that much more usable in real life afterwards. And as we like to say on our instructor classes, everyone passes, just not everyone passes at the same time. And this is the same with a personal skills class. Look at it as a driver's license. Some people may need 10 hours of behind the wheel with an instructor to learn to drive a car, and some might need 8, some might need 12. It depends from diver to diver. So go into these classes with an open mind. You'll be filmed, and that's just to hold up a mirror. It's not to point a finger, it's hold up a mirror. Hey, where are your weak points and where are your strong points? Now, when we do these classes, there's usually a period after the first initial weekend where you can practice your weaknesses and hone them so they become perfect. Then we meet up for an extra dive, an evaluation dive, and that's where you usually pass, because we'll give you a path to completion at the end of the first weekend, and then you can take that with you. So when your personal skills classes are done and you've passed your essentials of technical diving, you're ready for the first technical class. Now, the technical classes in UTD are ranged with depth, deco limit, and the deco gases. but they're not limited by your skill. That means what we're going to teach you from day one on technical diving is the right way to do it. We expect that your skill level is good enough to start on these classes. Hence, we have the personal skills classes prior to the technical critical skills training. So on the first technical level, which is recreational, we'll teach you to dive a trimix blend of 25-25 or 21-35 down to 40 meters, and we'll use oxygen as decompression. There's many other ways of teaching you technical diving, and sometimes the first deco gas you're allowed to use is either nitrox 50 or 80% oxygen fill. And well, in all fairness, they're usually because of the organizations that realize that your skill as a technical diver might not be really 100% honed yet, so they don't want you to get injured by using a potentially high percentage of oxygen. At 6 meters, you cannot go to 7, you cannot go to 8, it's potentially dangerous. But our belief is that if you cannot do these things, you shouldn't be there. You should focus on personal skills before and then come into critical skills. So what is critical skill training? What do we do? What do we make you do? What do we put you through on these courses? Well, on these courses you'll be given a plan. You'll say, okay, we're going to dive to this place and it's 9 meters deep, for example. You're going to find a suitable spot, send up an SMB, tie that SMB to the bottom, and then take a reel, and from that spot you've tied off somewhere, you run a line of about 60-70 meters long. And then your dive is given some limits, for example, say rock bottom of 75 bar, meaning you have to be back at the line at 75 bar to start your ascent, and a maximum dive time of, let's say, 45 minutes. And then you just dive up and down that line you just made until you reach one of those limits, or until something happens with your equipment that warrants an earlier exit of the dive. And this is where your personal skills come into play, because I, the instructor, will be behind you and monitoring you. I will be shadow diving, as we call it, so the students are below and in front of you. The instructor is hovering above and looking at the students, and usually in the beginning especially we emphasize the small mistakes students make, like turning away from the buddy with the fins, so the fins are almost in the face of a diver. That usually ends up with the diver behind losing his mask. One diver going down on a descent too fast, that usually ends up with the diver that's on the bottom being out of air, realizing, hey, my buddy is nowhere near me. So we're trying to emphasize small mistakes you might already make, and my goal as an instructor, every time we come out of the water, I want you to at least have one aha moment, that you've learned something valuable from real life experience. We want to teach you to be a team diver. On those critical skills dives, you'll also realize that not one exercise is for one person alone. Because while I might give diver a non-fixable failure, I'm monitoring diver B's awareness on diver A and diver C's awareness of becoming the new captain, because he's going to be in charge of the dive from that point onwards. With air sharing, where's the positioning of the other divers? Are we protected? Are we ready to help? Can we do we have open communication lines? It's all these things that we'll add during these critical skills training. I don't like to just do skills for the sake of skills or drills for the sake of drills. We're just gonna make it as realistic as possible. I will be diving with an air gun, which is a tiny little air nozzle I can attach to a low pressure inflator, and I can simulate failures on your twin set. And we'll simulate 9 different failures that are either fixable or non-fixable. And these are the value points of these critical skills classes, that you, with your personal skills, are able to close down a valve, stay in trim, stay in position, and then we'll teach you a more in-depth correlation between the regulators and the valves and the hoses and all that sort of stuff. That makes these classes so much different than anything else that is being taught out there, because I've been teaching technical diving for almost 20 years for 4 different organizations, so I know what all of the other courses comprise of. And when I started with teaching technical diving through UTD, I said, hey, wait a minute, this actually makes a lot more sense to train this way, because in the other courses we used to spend a lot more time in doing actual valve drills or stage switches or, you know, air sharing, which should have been over and done with by that time. UTD is an inclusive organization, meaning if you have those skills, are you in perfect trim? Can you do a back kick? Can you shoot an SMB? Can you share air in control? We can do a checkout dive. If you can do all those things that are the contents of an essentials class, there's no point in spending a weekend training for an essentials class. We might do a shortened version and look at only ratio deco if that's new for you, or you take a ratio deco mini, or you know, if something else is new for you. Hey, the way of gas switching is completely different than what I was learned if you come from a different organization. We'll take a stage mini. So you don't have to start from zero if you have the skills to pass a decorational class, because you maybe already have a technical training from another organization. Happy days. We'll do what's called an ADR, annual dive review. We'll make a dive to whatever level you decide that you want to jump in at, then we'll assess your skills together, you know, on a fair basis, and then we'll decide your plan onwards. So it starts with your personal preparation. Get your body in shape. Get your equipment up to par so it matches our DIR philosophy. Then enlist in an Essentials of Technical Diving class. Anyway, I hope that these 3 video series have given you a little bit more insight on what it takes to become a technical diver. If you have any questions, contact us down below. Leave a comment. Contact us by email at info@nowdive.dk. We conduct these training dives all over the world. Right now I'm in beautiful sunny Spain, even though it was raining like no tomorrow yesterday. Now the sun is out again. We've done a nice technical course during this week, but I've done these in Sweden, in Norway, in Italy, in south of Spain, in America. We travel all over the world, so give us a call, give us an email, and we can help you out getting deeper, going there where the fishes hide from other divers.